Alright folks, Swampbooger1, back again. Up close and personal this time. I've been meaning to do one of these. I guess it would be a mission statement to let you know a little bit about who I am and a lot about what I'm about. Now, I was born in Northwest Florida, lived here my whole life, Lower Alabama. I consider myself part of the chosen few, literally. And I started this channel to document Bigfoot in Northwest Florida. And the reason for that is, I've been sitting back waiting. I think I've said this in my other video, but it's absolutely true. I've been sitting back waiting on somebody to get good, conclusive evidence, good, conclusive footage, and prove, yeah, it's real flesh and blood. Or somehow prove that it's interdimensional, which at this point, I could go either way. I'm 50-50 on it. I know that there's something out there, though. Either it's interdimensional, or it's real flesh and blood, and has remained for the somewhat undetected. Although the legends go back. That's the thing that gets me. Some people think that it's a joke, and I think that's because the mainstream media. The media has programmed people to believe that Bigfoot is a joke or a hoax overall. That's just been passed down, over the centuries. But the Native Americans talked about Bigfoot. The European settlers, colonizers, the founders of this country, they talked about them. So, we've had past presidents that's seen them and talked about them. So people are seeing something, and they're hearing something, and sometimes they're smelling something, and they're experiencing things out there. So I know the phenomena of Bigfoot is real. There's no doubt about it. And I know a place not far from where I live where there's no doubt in my mind that if Bigfoot's real, a flesh and blood creature, I know where he's at. I've said it before, and I'm just telling you, I know where he's at. So I'm going to prove it to you guys. Now, me and my son was riding four-wheelers through this section of forest. This would have been back in March of 2019. And we had been riding for a couple hours all through the forest, going and exploring so many areas we'd never been. You could cover so much ground on four-wheelers. And we weren't necessarily looking for Bigfoot. We were just riding four-wheelers, sightseeing through the forest, having fun. And we got on this one particular trail, and we started going down it for a ways, and there was a tree laying across the middle of the road. Fairly fresh, broke tree. This is a good sized tree. This tree was probably 18 to 20 inches around. This is a big tree, and it was laying across the trail. So we got around that tree. We had to push up through the brush and stuff, and we made it around it. We got the bikes around it. We kept going, maybe another quarter of a mile, come across another tree. Two trees, it's kind of interesting, that close together over a trail, but still not that big of a deal. We got around that tree, we keep going, another quarter to a half a mile, and there's another tree. And after the third tree, there's a damn fly flying in here. I'm gonna kill his ass. There's another tree, the third tree. After the third tree, something told me that that's not really normal when you see that many trees laying in a path like that, and they're laid perfect, they're just almost too perfect to have them within that short of a distance, a mile and a half or so, have three of those trees blocking the trail. Anyway, we got around the last tree, and we kept going. And not long after the last tree, we came to the end of the trail. The trail kind of just dead end into a thick wall of jungle. And there was a little circle turnaround, not very big, probably 20 by 20 circle to turn around in. Not even big enough for a car. It's only big enough for an ATV. Which, come to find out, where we were riding, you're actually not allowed to ride ATVs back there, which is interesting. But we got down to the end of that trail. We shut the bikes off. I said, hey, let's get the water out, get some water, just sit and enjoy the forest with the bikes turned off, and listen to our surroundings. So we shut the bikes off, and we got the backpack out. And I mean, literally only 20 seconds after shutting the bikes off, by then, we're already starting to get the water out of the backpack. We heard a roar. And folks, I mean, it was so intense that in my mind, that's how quick it was too. It was just a brief roar, and there was no sound afterwards. There was no sound before it or afterwards that we noticed. But this thing let out a roar that vibrated your soul, literally. I mean, you could feel your bones vibrating. Like if you ever been to a zoo and you've heard a lion or a tiger roar, intensify that by 100. And I'll tell you guys, I've said it before in my other video, I'll tell you again because it's the God Almighty truth. The first thing that went through my mind was a jet just hit its thruster. But there was no after sound or anything like that. It was just, and it was real intense. I mean, it was like right there. But it wasn't coming from over us. My mind was trying to comprehend what I just heard, I guess. And that's the only thing I could equate it to was a jet engine. And folks, we were miles up in a forest. Very far from any jets and stuff. And see, I live right outside Pensacola. And they got the Blue Angels. And I've heard the jets when they hit the thrusters and they drop the hammer and get on it when they're going overhead sometimes practicing. And they're intense. And that's how intense this was. But it was like right there in the woods. It was coming from in front of us. And we got chill bumps all through us. We looked at each other. I told my son, I said, crank up the bikes. Let's get the hell out of here. And we cranked up the bikes and we got the hell out of there. So that's very intense. That was very intense that day. And I didn't want to go and see what made the noise. I was actually praying in my mind because I have my son. He's like 10 at the time. I'm saying, God, please don't let us see what made that noise. After hearing it, I didn't even want to see it because that was scary. That was something serious. We come home that night and I tried to look up all kinds of animal noises that you may hear here out in the woods, out in the forest here. So I'm thinking, and my wife said, well, maybe it was a big bear. I said, well, I know there's bear in there. We've seen them. But I don't think this was a bear. I mean, I've never actually heard a bear roar. But, I mean, these are just like Florida black bear. They're not grizzly bears. But they do get big. I've seen a real big one that was probably 500 pounds, maybe 600 pounds. It was a big boy. I guess it was a boy. It was big. Crossed the road one day. I was actually driving my truck that day out off 87. Which, interestingly enough, there's a lot of reports of Bigfoot around that area. But that aside, we looked up sounds and we tried to figure it out. There was nothing that compared to it. The only thing that kind of compared to it was some howls or roars that someone recorded, and I think it was Colorado. It was somewhere out west. Pretty sure it was Colorado. And those sounded kind of similar. But this thing was right on top of us. And folks, there ain't no doubt in my mind. That's not normal. So we didn't go back to this area for a whole year. Okay? I mean, it really did shake us. It scared me. We didn't go back for a whole year. After a year, it's still weighing on my mind. I'm like, we got to go back, So I gathered up a buddy of mine. We got armed up. And we went back. And we found twisted trees all in the same area. The general area where the roar came from. We found large trees, 4, 5, 6 inches around, even up to some 10-inch trees that were broke. And they were broke up high, 6, 7 foot off the ground. Some of them was lower, 3 or 4 foot off the ground. But they're broke, and some of them are twisted, and they're broke and twisted in different directions. And the leaves on a lot of these trees were still green. So I know these trees were broke when they were green and healthy. I recorded some of them on my other videos. Go back and look. You'll see the area I'm talking about. I'm just trying to think what all I need to cover in this video. I got so much information. But we went back, we found the broken trees there, you know, and we found some footprints. That was interesting. And my buddy said, hey, we got close to the creek bed, where the creek is back there. It's actually two creeks that meet, which is my theory of why that Sasquatch is hanging out in there. It's because him or they, whatever it is, whether it's a single one or a group, they can hop across these creeks, and it's like super jungle along through here. It's real remote. People don't go back there, and it's just the perfect place for a Bigfoot. It's loaded with deer, raccoon, bobcat, fox, coyote, possums, armadillos, raccoons, tons of snakes, probably 50 different kinds of snakes, fish, everything you can think of. There's a lot of vegetation out there too. Wild lettuce and different berries and tons of pine cones, pine seeds. So there's plenty of food out there, there's no doubt. If it can feed these large bear out there, 500-600 pound bear, I've seen them, then it can feed a 1,000-pound Sasquatch easily. There's plenty of food. There's no shortage of food in Northwest Florida, out in the remote areas that I'm talking about. There's plenty of land too. It's a vast amount of land. And the forest that we were in connects to other forests that are much larger. They call them Florida greenways. All of Florida's giant national forest and different wildlife preserve areas and management areas, they all connect with each other. It provides a highway for animals to travel, and so for swamp boogers or Bigfoot to travel also. But we couldn't figure out what made that roar. We went back a year later. We found the broken, twisted trees. We found some giant footprints that arguably looked like they kind of had toes. I got a picture on my phone somewhere of it, but it's hard to make it out on the phone. I'm not even going to show it to you guys because you guys probably wouldn't believe it. It's hard to see. But one of these days, we're going to go back there, and then I'm going to get a fresh cast of these tracks. I mean, a fresh print. Now, it just rained for the last couple of days, so I'm thinking tomorrow or maybe the next day. That'll give us a couple of days for stuff to move through there and make new tracks. The next couple of days I'm going to go back out there, and hopefully I'll get this thing tracked. I'll get its track cast. Alright, but let me continue with my story, folks, because I'm not done with this spot. We heard the roar. We found the broke trees. My buddy smelt it. He said it smelled like sewage back there. He said it was the water. I said, that's not the water. We're a long ways away from it. That's a damn Bigfoot. That's what they smell like. Rotten sewage. You could smell it in the air. This is where the trees are twisted. This is where we found the footprints. This is where we heard the roar. Ain't no doubt in my mind there's a Bigfoot back there at this point. Anyway, me and my son are back there Saturday, day after Christmas. It's about 20 minutes before dark, so it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We were walking through this same trail where all this activity has occurred. Just me and him and our dogs. And I was letting out whoops. Whoop whoop! Loud as I could. Every few minutes I let them out. We've been walking for a couple hours, hadn't heard nothing. Finally, we were on our way back because it was getting dark. We were getting up out of there, heading back to the truck. It was about 5 o'clock. I let out a whoop, and coming from our south, we hear a whoop, 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 whoop. I'm not kidding, folks. It sounded like that. It was like an aggressive bark, a whoop, and then some kind of yapping. So in my mind, I'm trying to piece together and think logically, what did I just hear? You know, we look at each other, eyes got big, we're like, wow. Now I'm trying to think logical, and I know that the direction it was coming from, there is a parking spot where I have seen people down before, but it's very rare. I haven't even seen anybody there this whole year. And we've been out there several times. There's never been anyone there. But I've seen people there in prior years, several years ago, a lot. When I was a lot younger, we used to go down there and stuff. And there would be people hanging out and partying and stuff. But it's pretty rare for people to go that far back because it's a few miles back up in the woods. But that's the direction the sound came from. So I know that my partner goes down there and he takes his wife and they take their dog, and they have a large Rottweiler. And they're out there looking for Bigfoot too. They're firm believers in it. They know, they believe me. I've told them the story. They're family. And they believe me. They know I'm not lying to them. And they've been out there looking for themselves too. And they had a weird experience where they think that their dog was literally like kidnapped and held hostage for a while by this thing. and then released further up trail. 150-pound Rottweiler. Folks, it's a long story, and I'm not going to get into it on this video, but I'll get to the story, and I'm not kidding you. It sounds crazy as hell, but I'm serious, folks. There's a Bigfoot in this area where we're at. And me and my son stumbled across it 2 years ago. I can't believe that we were that fortunate and lucky enough to stumble right up into the area where this thing hangs out, or where they hang out. But there's no doubt in my mind, he's back there. We've heard it on numerous occasions. We've smelt it. We've seen tracks. We've seen the broken trees. I just got to figure out how to get it on camera. And I'm going to be the guy that does it. I'm going to get this on camera because I have faith and confidence that I can do this. Especially now that I've heard it. We've gotten close to it. And I know for a fact there's one back there. There's nothing else it could be. I was going to tell you guys, when I heard the bark, the whoop, and the yapping, I was thinking in my mind it was my partner. And it was their Rottweiler barking. He did a whoop, and then his wife must have yelled or said something, because the yapping at the end almost sounded like a feminine type voice. It's very strange. My son believes that it was a coyote barked, then Bigfoot whooped, and then the coyote was yapping, which he could very well be right. Because after that, about 30 minutes before we were going to leave, we were sitting down by the truck. We had all the lights out, everything shut down, and we're just sitting there quiet outside the truck. And we hear coyotes yapping and yelling. There's a damn fly in here. I'm going to get his ass. We heard coyotes yapping and yelling. We could hear 3 or 4 different packs coming from all different directions around us. This was right at dark. They started going off. But I might have some of that audio recorded. I got to get some better audio recording equipment. I got to get a better camera. This camera's not what I thought it was. It's a Kodak Pix Pro AZ421. It's okay, but the video quality's not that great. The pictures are excellent. But the main reason I got it was because of the zoom. I think I can get close enough to this thing back there to zoom in on it. This camera's got a pretty badass zoom. And if I can get within a safe distance of this thing and zoom in on him and record it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you guys. I'm not full of shit. It's really a Bigfoot back there. That's just a fact, folks. And I don't make stuff up like the mainstream. Most of these Bigfoot shows, I sit down and I watch them, and I watch these documentaries, and you can tell a lot of these people are full of shit, and they're making stuff up for entertainment purposes and to get ratings and stuff. Most of the guys on YouTube with the Bigfoot channels, I'm surprised half these guys got so many subscribers and likes and stuff, and they just make joke videos, and it's all bullshit, you know? That's the difference between me. I'm going to bring you real evidence. I'm really going to bring you evidence. I'm not going to have people set up out there faking stuff or knocking on stuff or yelling and stuff, you know, or in gorilla suits or ghillie suits. I'm going to go out there and show you. I don't have to do that. I know where real Bigfoot are, right here in Northwest Florida. And people don't think there's enough land or territory here to hold a Sasquatch. You think that one would have been recorded by a trail cam by now, one would have been shot by a hunter by now. Folks, I'm telling you, when people see these things and when they hear them and you're out there in the wild, you don't want to get close to them. You don't want to mess with them. Even if you got a gun with you, you don't want to shoot them, because there's something about them that's not something you just shoot. They're a special creature. And I don't know if, I'm not saying that they're related to us. At least I don't want to believe that. But I believe that they're a special creature God created, and they have their own purpose, and they have their own habitat, and they have their own habits, and they have their own God-given guidance and God-given common sense, and that's how they're remaining elusive, and they're remaining out there in the wilds, and they're living primitive, and they're in their habitat, they're in their world. And I've been thinking a lot about them running with the coyotes. I believe they do. I mean, it would only make sense that the coyotes And Bigfoot would share scraps, would share food, and would also share protection, as in warning calls. There's been a lot of people that say Bigfoot can mimic coyote sounds and coyote calls and different animals too. Uh, they're very smart creature. These things aren't like an animal, a dumb animal just bouncing around through the forest that you're going to just stumble upon. These things are very elusive, and their main purpose is to live, eat, sleep, and avoid humans at all costs. They've probably sat back for hundreds, thousands of years watching humans and know to stay far away from man, for the most part. Stay far away from us. And, I guess that's good and bad. It's both good and bad. It is what it is. But I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to get this thing on film. But I just want to do the mission statement. I know it's long. I could go on and on talking and telling you guys about this, all this stuff. But please, just check back. Check out my videos. And like and subscribe. And believe me, I'm going to get him. I'm going to get it on film. And I'll tell you, the Patterson-Gimlin film, I believe that's real. I believe that's a real film. The Freeman footage is very possible real footage too. There's a lot of film out there of Bigfoot that is arguably real, especially the Patterson-Gimlin. I'm telling you, man, when you run it through the high definition and clean it up and all that, it looks like you can literally see muscles moving, underneath all that fur. And then to think to put the breast on the front, I mean, if it was a hoaxer, they thought it out a lot, and they really didn't make that much money out of the deal. A lot of them got criticized and laughed at, just like me. You guys, a lot of people are going to watch this and say, look at this dumbass. This guy really thinks he's going to go out and find Bigfoot, when all these people have been trying to find Bigfoot for hundreds of years, thousands of years, and he thinks all of a sudden, this guy right here, Swampbooger1, all of a sudden, he's going to go out and find him in Florida, of all places. Yep. That's what's going to happen, though, folks. That's the irony of it, okay? That's the irony of it. When I record it, it'll be a done deal. I'm not going to go out there, like I say, like all these documentaries and these different people that fake that stuff, and you can tell that they're fake just by the way they talk. I mean, it gets me upset just thinking about it. I'm going to do it the best I can with what I got. And I don't have the best equipment right now. I don't have a bunch of money right now. My truck is hit and miss right now. I don't have money to go get a new vehicle. The spot that I'm talking about, where I know for a fact, where all this stuff happened, and I know for a fact Bigfoot's at, it's hard to get there. And it's not that far, but it's a decent little drive. It costs gas money, it costs time, all kinds of things. And I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm just putting into it. But I'm going to have everything video documented right here on this channel. And that way one day people will look back and say, damn, Swampbooger1, he wasn't playing around. He for real knew where Bigfoot was. And he showed the world. That's what's going to happen. That's a fact. Belief and confidence. Belief and confidence and knowing. I know that I'm going to find Bigfoot. See? There's a lot of power in what I just told you. I'll be the guy that finds Bigfoot. I'll get clear 100% footage of it. And I'll get good evidence too. And that's another thing I want to tell you guys. After this video, I'm going to upload another video. And I want y'all to watch it. This video was taken down there at Ground Zero. And it shows a lot of breaks, tree breaks in a certain area. That area that these tree breaks are in this video, is the same general direction that we heard the bark, the whoop, and the yap come from. It all came from either the same entity or the entities were standing next to each other, because it came from the same direction altogether. A strong bark, like I said before, I'm not even going to reproduce it because I sound like an idiot. But you guys rewind it and watch. That's what it sounded like, somewhat, to my description. I got to get audio recorders so I can record this thing. And you guys can hear it. Because there's nothing else could have made that whoop. I even asked my son, I'm like, maybe it was an owl that somehow did the whoop part back, you know? Maybe it was a coyote barked and an owl whooped back. It went woo whooped, whoop, woo whoop, like that. You could clearly hear a P at the end. And that's what my son emphasized. He said, Dad, you got to have lips to go woo whoop. I was like, yeah, you know, you're right. You got to have lips, son. So there's no doubt in my mind, either it was a person that done it or it was a Bigfoot that done it. The thing that really makes me think it was a Bigfoot is because this is close to where we heard the roar. We've seen the tracks. We've smelt it. We see the twisted, broken trees everywhere. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's probably a real Bigfoot. Not to mention this. After I got that whoop response, the bark, the whoop, and the yap, I got that response to my whoop. Afterwards, I let out another whoop to see if it'd do it again. Didn't do it again. We stood there a few minutes. I let out another whoop. Never responded. We kept on walking. I let out a couple more whoops. Never heard anything again. It only responded that one time. It was a bark, an aggressive bark. It reminded me of like a big dog, like a Rottweiler or a bulldog. That's why I thought it was my buddy and them. My buddy and his wife and their dog. But I talked to them, texted them. They weren't out there. I said, man, you sure you guys weren't playing a joke on us and y'all were out there? I said, no, seriously, we weren't out there. And I believe him 100%. Just 2 days prior, he believes his dog was kidnapped and basically held hostage by this thing for 45 minutes and then dropped off at a different part of a trailhead. And the dog was trembling. 150-pound Rottweiler. Fearless, this dog. Fearless. It got on a scent, and it was right where they found the big footprints, too. By the way, I don't know if I told you guys this. They found big footprints themselves back there. They took pictures of it. It's on my phone. I mean, just to show you guys, I am serious as hell when I'm telling you guys this stuff. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Because he did send me pictures of the track. This was where the dog smelt this track, got on its scent, and the Rottweiler was smelling this track, got on its scent, went running off through the woods. Presumably chasing after this thing. Eventually he couldn't hear the dog any longer. This dog's giant, it's loud, it crushes through the woods. You can hear it everywhere it goes. This dog went silent for 45 minutes. No sound of it, no sound of anything else. They're about to give up hope, looking for it. And here's the bad part, folks, that he didn't put anything down in this picture to show. Let me see if I can try this. Got a sucker here. Look. If you look close, folks, look close. The toes are up there. The heel goes back to here and up to there. Okay? It's hard to see. But check out this other picture. He's got a small dog in the picture with it. And there's a knife. There's a little pocket knife he put up there. The toes will be up here. Okay, it's hard to make out, but there's toe impressions. And then it would be down here. And that's a small dog there. That's not the Rottweiler. This is after the Rottweiler was smelling this track. Their Rottweiler took off after it through the woods and disappeared for 45 minutes. And they were walking back to the car about to give up hope. Almost giving up hope anyway. They were starting to give up. And they were walking back towards the car and they kept yelling and yelling. And all of a sudden they looked behind them and this dog is just like 50 foot in front of them out on the trail. It was very strange the way it happened. And I believe them. They go back to this area a lot. They've been going